It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of May 24th, 1996. Only 3 movies to look at today, so let's go ahead and just get right on into it. And we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, Tom Cruise starring in Mission Impossible. I don't think it needs to be said that this is based off of the television series from the 1960s that has been remade several times since then, including the '88 sequel series, which apparently this is taking place 6 years after that series from the 1980s, even though none of those people are in this movie. And this is one of many attempts they tried to do to make this movie. They've had several people involved in it, including Sidney Pollack, who Tom Cruise worked with in The Firm, Steven Sicilian, David Coep, Robert Towne, and eventually it came down to Brian De Palma coming in here. And Brian De Palma, 9 years prior to this, made a great film out of The Untouchables, so you'd figure he could probably do the same thing with Mission Impossible, and he did for the most part. I won't say it's a great movie per se, but it's weird that Mission Impossible and the Fast and the Furious movies kind of had the same track in terms of films that come after each other. The first movie were pretty enjoyable movies. Sequels were not as great, but then, like, starting with Mission Impossible 3, the series really began to turn around. They put out these great movies one after another. And the Fast and the Furious, while they haven't had as many great movies as Mission Impossible has, right after Fast and Furious, the fourth one in the series, they did get a little bit better and better with the fifth one and the sixth one, and then ending up with the seventh one. And then they kind of petered off after that one. But it's very interesting how similar those two series are. There's still series that are continuing to produce movies nowadays. And Mission Impossible did start off on a rocky note. And I think most people really didn't like it because one of the things about Mission Impossible was that it's not a solo-based adventure. It's supposed to be all these different people, all these different names and notable people that are working off of each other to get these missions done. And in this movie, they kill off most of those people early on. So the whole movie, it's basically just Tom Cruise leading the charge, and that was a complaint for a lot of people when this movie, and especially the second one, came out. Once they started doing it with the third film and started putting the focus more on the team itself, those movies got better and better and better. But like I said before, this is not a bad movie per se. In fact, far from it. It definitely has a lot of flaws to it, but it's still a fun action movie. It's an entertaining action film. They deliver on the goods with some great stylized action, great visuals that still hold up almost 30 years later, some great cinematography, and the cast that they do have do make the action work. I mean, yeah, it does have a lot of flaws to it in the scripting department, and also kind of going past what the show was about. It has a lot of flaws that keeps it from making it one of the best action movies ever made, but there's definitely enough there to make the first Mission Impossible a good, fun action movie to check out and start the franchise on the right track. Even though, like I said, second one was a bigger hit, but it wasn't a better movie. It's not until we got to the third one, then the fourth one, the fifth one, and then most recently Fallout, then the series started to improve and get better and better and better. But like I said before, the first movie is actually worth watching. Is it better than it's nowhere near as good as what we get afterwards, but it's still far from the worst movie to come from this series. We'll get to that one when we get to Mission Impossible 2, but yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you on that one. That's Mission Impossible, the first one. Let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Leslie Nielsen in the spoof comedy Spy Hard. Would you believe that this is made by the same team that gave us the masterpieces of shit that are Meet the Spartans, Disaster Movie, and basically those spoof movies from the late 2000s that really are not as what they claim to be. And you could definitely look at this movie as the ultimate example of how that got started. I mean, just that trailer alone, it just felt like that there was not one specific movie that they were targeting with that series, with that trailer right there. It was just like, what was the most popular movies of the time period? Hey, let's bring up Speed. Let's bring up Cliffhanger. Let's bring up In the Line of Fire. Let's bring up what was another one they brought up? James Bond, like Mission Impossible. Like they just threw everything at the wall and was just like, hey, is anything sticking here? Nope, just keep throwing at it. And they thought they could get away with it because they had Leslie Nielsen there. And you know what? Leslie Nielsen can make some of these movies funny. This is definitely one of those ones where he does not make it funny. He's trying his best here. He is the strongest thing in the movie, but honestly, everything else about it is just so so not fun. It's a boring movie. It's not funny whatsoever, and you can just look at what some of the stuff that they do in this movie, and it just feels empty. It doesn't feel like there's an idea of what they wanted to do here. It just feels like, let's just take whatever movie's popular at the time and then just throw it into a script that we wrote within 5 minutes and be like, here you go. But the best example of why this movie didn't work, look at a movie like Wrongfully Accused, which came out 2 years later. That movie's whole campaign was, it's not just a movie, it's every movie. But the main plot of it was parodying The Fugitive, but they also did other references to other movies at the time period, and it was done a lot funnier. It was done much, much funnier than it was in this movie. There were moments in that movie that still hold up. It's a very underrated movie, in my opinion, and it just did this concept a whole lot better than Spy Hard did, even though it's got some people I really do like. I mean, Weird Al Yankovic, I'll watch anything that dude is in, and once again, he has one of the strongest elements to the movie here. You have a great cast here. You have Nicolette Sheridan, Charles Durning, Marcia Gay Harden, Barry Bostwick, Andy Griffith as the villain. Should be fun. Should be a fun concept here, and it just isn't. Like, he's trying his hardest, but he just can't get any good laughs out of this performance here. And Andy Griffith can be a really funny guy, too. It just goes to show you that movies like this needed somebody who made the Naked Gun movies and the Airplane movies, Airplane so special. Like, you needed somebody from the Zucker Brothers group to come in here and do a movie like this, because you need to have somebody there to show you how to do this and how to do it right. Because it's like everyone was trying to copy what they did, and most people didn't come close to what they did, especially these guys. But maybe somebody like the Wayans brothers came closest to doing what the Zucker Brothers did, but made it their own thing. But even that shtick got old pretty quickly after a couple of years. But yeah, you really needed to get somebody who saw the Naked Gun movie, saw what made them work, and put it into something like this. I mean, then again, that's why Wrongfully Accused worked as well as it did, because you had one of the writers from there, Pat Proft, who was the director of that one, and that one worked better than this movie did, like I said before. But yeah, Spy Hard was a movie that there's definitely a lot of potential there. I mean, you put Leslie Nielsen in it for a good reason. Like I said, he's the strongest thing about the movie, but other than that, though, it just doesn't work. It's a film that's not really funny. It's not that creative. It's not that intriguing. It's just not a good film at all. It's a real disappointment of a film, to say the least. So that is Spy Hard. Let's move on to the last movie that we have here, which is A Modern Affair. This is a movie called A Modern Affair, obviously. It stars Stanley Tucci and Lisa Eichenhorn, and the film plot reverses the conventions of romantic comedies. Instead of man meet woman, fall in love, marry, and have a baby. In this film, the woman gets pregnant, then meets the father, then falls in love. You have Lisa Eichenhorn playing this lonely, successful executive whose biological clock is loudly ticking, and giving up on finding the right man, she resorts to using a sperm bank on the advice of her best friend. And soon she's pregnant, but she becomes curious at who the father is. And she eventually finds this nature photographer played by Stanley Tucci, and they end up having a relationship together. And it's really, judging from this concept alone, I mean, it already kicks the crap out of the last time they made a comedy out of a sperm bank, which was Frozen Assets, which is a film that was notoriously known as one of the worst comedies ever made. It had Corbin Burnson and Shelley Long in it. It came out in '92, and I don't really remember if I actually covered that one or not, but if I didn't, probably for a good reason, because that movie was not that very good from the stuff that I saw from it. But this definitely looks like it's a lot better. I haven't seen this movie, so I can't really say if that to be true or not. But it certainly does have some promise to it. I mean, Stanley Tucci usually is very good in most of the stuff he's in, so I really don't doubt that he's not bad that he is not bad in this movie. I think he probably gives a good performance in here. But like I said, I haven't seen this movie, so I don't really know if it's good or not. But, yeah, really, that's pretty much all I have here on that one. So that's A Modern Affair. And so on that note, we wrap up this edition of Time About the Movies. When we meet, we'll wrap May 1996 up with 4 movies, including Dennis Quaid and Sean Connery in Dragonheart, Whoopi Goldberg and Eddie, Charlie Sheen in The Arrival, and also The Man with a Plan. 4 movies to look at next time. We'll dive into those on the next episode. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another episode. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time, and until then, as always, take care.